Something I really love about anyone who is pursuing acting or anything in entertainment, that constant flexibility you have to have is something that is not taught. How did you, because you still had to teach yourself. How did that process go?
Constant flexibility you have to have is not taught. Well, it's like, you know, I went to grad school, NYU, and I think through that process, I was thrust into a lot of situations with classmates, teachers, friends that I wasn't always, I guess the best way to say it is I wasn't always successful in. The reason I went to grad school is because I did a project that I thought I failed at, and I wanted a place in which I could fail a little more. And so I said that in my interview, and they were like, okay, cool. And I was like, so I just need somewhere where I can be bad for a little bit. And
I love that.
And so I think that place taught me, because I was in a place in which I could be bad for a little bit, a place in which I could sort of figure out what that balance is and how that looks for me. I learned a lot. And I learned how to balance and how to multitask and how to do a million things at once, because at NYU, listen, we would show up at like 8 a.m. and leave at 10 p.m. You know what I mean? And so it was like one of those things that taught me how to sort of begin that balance. But it's a constant, negotiation. I think you heard the side, because it's like, there's no arrival in anything. You never like actually figure it out. I'm constantly negotiating it and figuring it out as I go. I don't know what I'm doing.
Who spectacular does?
I don't know.
You know, who spectacular really does. I love that sentence. I love being able to confront knowing that you are doing something so positively, so successfully, so well, so in your craft, and still recognizing, like, I don't actually know what I'm doing. I'm just showing up to do what I'm doing. You know, I'm just showing up in a sense.
Yeah. Showing up with all the knowledge and experience of the journey that has come before, like this moment today on Wednesday at 12:15 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah, I love that. So how do you define making it?
Making what?
Making it. When people say like, I've made it or you've made it, I'm sure you've had a lot of interviews, again, when we're in that successful moment and people are like, you've made it, you've done this, you've done that. How do you define it? How do you internalize it?
I don't think you ever make anything. I don't think you've ever made it anywhere. Like, the world goes round and it doesn't stop, and we won't be maybe here when it stops, but then after that, there's more. We live in an infinite universe. I live by like a sort of quote where I am fulfilled in knowing that I'm expanding, and I am thrilled with the knowledge that I will never get it done. I don't think I'll ever have made it. I think I would have. I think that I will set out to accomplish things and do it. Like, for instance, because I'm in my dressing room and it's sitting right here, like, set out to accomplish writing a children's book, and boom, there you go. You know what I mean? And so, like, I think you set out to accomplish things and do it, but then then there's more. But I don't think there's any questions like that. I don't know how to respond to, because there's no, for me, and that may sound cliche, but there's no point in which I think I'll ever feel like I've made it to anything. There are points in which I will be proud of some of the things I accomplished because I set out to do a thing and I got it done. But like I said, I am fulfilled in the knowledge that I am expanding, and I'm thrilled, also thrilled, that I will never get it done.
I feel like there's so much confidence in that sentence of being so comfortable in your curiosity and recognizing that, like, you get to use your curiosity to drive you. And I wonder what that relationship for you was with building trust with it. Because to your point of, like, the question's hard for you to answer, you don't need, there's no perfect answer. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
That's why it was specific to how do you define it? Because I think there are some people that are like, actually, these 3 things, I made it. You know, like some people might have that specificity in that relationship. But with you, I enjoy that curiosity leading you.
Yeah, because then I'm a lie. A future version of me is going to lie to you. Like a current version is going to be the current version of me. The future version of me is going to look at the current version of me and say he lied. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And I don't want to be called a liar.
Right. Trust me, I understand. I there was a time I thought I had a specific definition, and when I got to that experience, I was like, oh, so it's a whole other thing, and it just became so much more expansive. But again, the relationship with curiosity changed. I finally built more trust in it. For a long time, I was really afraid of the unknown. And I wonder for you, who constantly, you know, as an actor, what you give to your projects, as a writer, what you give to the project, it's a lot of you. And it can still be a lot of unknown, although there's passion infused in it, although there's direction, there's still unknown. So how did you build your relationship with curiosity?
How did I build? I just follow my fun. I follow things that excite me. And so my fun leads me to where my curiosity can most free or most at play. And it's an imperfect process that it's not always fun. So like, it's always like, you can be curious about something. It's the key to curious and be like, oh, I'm curious. And what I've learned through my curiosity is that I hate this, you know?
That I'm not into it. Right. That's so good. It's so good. That's the work.
So
that's the work.
Yeah, it is. It's like you follow your fun and then you realize you're like, oh no. Oh!
Right. What's your pivot game like then?
My pivot game?
Yeah, like as soon as you do follow curiosity and recognize, oh, this might not be exactly what I thought it was going to be, or might not be my highest fun, are you easily willing to pivot, or has that been something you had to learn through?
I guess that's a new question. Like that's a question that I haven't I don't know what that's like for me. In fact, I think I'm still learning what that's like for me, because like last night was one of those experiences where I don't know, you just gotta. You keep following your fun, and I feel like there's always there's like a little bit of light somewhere, and you like whether you see it in somebody that you meet and you're like, oh, and they see it in you, like there's a little bit of light somewhere, and so the pivot is that once you see that light wherever that is or whatever that thing is, you're like, I'm off. I'm a little ADHD, so I just like, you know, it's not hard for me to go towards something that I find joy in. Yeah.
Still a training. I love that. What's the last thing you forgave yourself for the first time?
That is a lot. That's a hard question. The last thing I forgave myself for the first time. Like there was something that like started to bubble up in me, but then it like was like, nope. So clearly,
why do you think it was a no?
Because I'm the kind of person that is like, I'm hard on myself before somebody else can be hard on me. Oh shucks, you know something? I saw you. My friend sent me something that you said about doubters, or what is it about doubt? What was it?
Letting people have the benefit of your doubt.
Yeah, letting people have the benefit of your doubt. There's a weird thing that I do. Like like somebody at the stage show the other day, they took a picture and they're like, "You were so wonderful and ain't no more, and loved you in this and love your work and blah blah blah." And I like reposted and it's just like, Eddie, thank you. Anybody, I'm grateful for anybody who's willing to suffer through one thing, but two, you hold a special place in my heart. Suffer. I mean, like because I guess I'm like, I will. I guess in my head I'm like I feel like I've accomplished a lot, but I'm also like, because I'm so curious about things in the world, I also know that there's so much I don't know, and there's so much that like even through my accomplishments that I haven't done. You know, like even in the thing, there's so much places of curiosity in the thing that I've already done that I didn't even explore. And so like all of it is imperfect. And I guess I'm just constantly forgiving myself in knowing that I am an imperfect being. There are just times in which there are places in which you come up short, or you just know, or I just know that like it is what it. I guess the best way to say is it is what it is. That's where I'm at that point in time. So last thing, that's a very roundabout way of saying the last. I can't be specific about the exact last thing I forgave myself for, but I feel like I'm constantly in negotiations of what forgiveness looks to myself.
Yeah. Is there an old version of forgiveness that you've now like left alone and said, okay, because as you said, it's a renegotiation. So if you've said, okay, this is how I forgive myself at this point in my life, and now this is how I forgive myself at this point, sometimes it's faster. I will say for myself, I was so adamant about learning how to do it faster. I was like, we cannot allow ourselves to be mad at ourselves for 2 weeks. You're a human. You messed up. You got to be able to get there in 3 days. One day you can do it in an hour, and then one day you'll learn to do it instantly. And that's okay if you're not there now. But we can't be doing this 1 month, this 2 week, this. And I had to, that was probably because maybe one thing took me 6 months or 4 months or 3 months or whatever it is. I don't have those exact, measures, but I just wonder if you can recognize moments where you're like, wow, I actually used to take a little longer in this area, and now I'm a little better, or something you're currently negotiating with yourself.
Yeah, you're gonna have to forgive me because I feel like this is like a new thought. So, and
I understand.
like new questions that I'm asking, that you're asking me, that I'm asking myself. So I think that's a thing that happens, but I'm not like really conscious of how and when.
Mm-hmm. Understood. What are you currently unlearning right now?
What am I currently unlearning? Oh, what am I currently unlearning? I guess my relationship with boundaries, whether that be with friends or with family. There's sometimes it's okay to walk away. Sometimes it's okay to say no. So I don't know if that like answers your questions in terms of unlearning, but like I don't know if that answers your question in terms of unlearning.
Is it, if it's the thing you're unlearning, it does?
Yeah, I mean it is. Like I try not to, when I speak about things, I try not to speak in like I can't not do something. I can only do something. So what I'm learning is how to say no. What I'm learning is healthy boundaries. What I'm learning, does that make sense? So
Yeah, yeah.
it was the syntax and the
Sentence,
language
yeah.
that
It's the structure, right?
that caught me.
Yeah.
So I have trouble with like not like saying, oh, I'm trying not to do a thing, but I can say I'm trying to do a thing. I'm trying to build healthy boundaries between friends, family, colleagues, coworkers. I'm learning how to say no if it, not even if it doesn't benefit me, but if it doesn't serve me being in line and in the vortex of what is right for me, and in line with me continuing to follow my curiosity and my fun, you know. So I'm learning again how to sort of create the space I need for myself to get what I need emotionally, physically, and mentally, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. What's your inner voice like as you're learning that?
It's interesting because sometimes it's like screaming at me, and then there's sometimes where it's just like, hey, yo, walk away. You know, like I was at a thing. I was at a thing, and Oh God. If somebody says something to me, I literally just they said something to me which was I can just say what they said. I don't give a damn. They said, "You don't know what it's like to be tired. You don't have two kids." And I was like, and in that moment, my brain did a lot of like backflips and things because I was just like, "Well, also, you just disregarded my whole by saying, all right, bet." And what I did, I was like, you know what? Enjoy the rest of the evening. I think this is where I head out. But take care. I hope you're well. I was like, I'm thinking, and then I like said goodbye to everybody, and I left. I just left. And as I was saying goodbye to everybody, this person comes up to me and was like, "Oh no, I felt like the conversation got really heated, or like I feel like you." I was like, "No." They were like, "Can we talk?" And I was like, "Not now. Enjoy the rest of the evening." I was like, I enjoy the rest of the evening. I'm leaving. I decided that that's what I need from me. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm doing. And now that you decided that you want to actually, consider my feelings, doesn't mean that I have to like give you that time or energy. So I left. I think that was the most visceral reaction, the most visceral moment in which I like dealt with that voice. But it was a
Yeah.
gentle, in that moment, it was very gentle, right? It was just like, it was like there was a switch that just said, just leave. And when
Yeah.
I mean curiosity, my curiosity was like, I'm more curious about what's happening outside of this moment than this moment right here.
Completely understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so interesting that you mentioned just like that caveat of, because you're now available to give me the, not necessarily give you, but like to be available for the breadth of this conversation to be more two-sided than one-sided. Do I now need to change my mind? And that is,
Yeah. It was
that's
like,
a,
it was one of the most fascinating things that I was like, yeah.
because that's one of those things we say, like, it makes me a good person if I change my mind right now, or this person will be happy if I change my mind, versus honoring, I already made up my mind. I don't have to change it based on your now,
What you
different action
needed.
or reaction. Right.
Because you weren't concerned about my feelings or my needs before this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the moment where I was very proud of the voice inside and the way it sort of manifested itself. Because it was just
Mm.
very gentle. It was just like, just leave, just just
Yeah.
just leave. You don't
Yeah.
want to be here.
Yeah.
Leave.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. As we are growing and learning and wanting to be loved and belonging, we sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously abandon parts of ourselves to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, to be accepted. Have you recognized now in your later years as an adult, as a growing man, have you noticed the things you have abandoned of yourself, and have you been able to pick them back up?
To be noticed, to be. Um, it's so there. It's so. It's especially in my industry. It's very fascinating. The biggest thing would be my relationship to my joy and my fun. I think as you get older, whatever you want to call it, as you grow and time moves on, you start to. Best way to describe it is I took a clown class once, and there was a lot happening in the world that day. I think hashtag somebody uh, had happened. You know what I'm saying? And I came in and I was pissed. And the teacher was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "Don't fucking talk to me today." and and we start working. And I was like, "I'm not in a laughing mood." And he goes, "Well, today doesn't have to be a funny day, but there's always a possibility for fun. It's available to you." And so I think as I've gotten older and more things sort of start to layer on top of responsibilities and whatnot, and just like life starts to layer, I always remind myself, who I've begun to remind myself, that there's always a possibility for it. It might not be it, but it always is a possibility. If you want it, it's available to you. I think my nephews are the best, sort of like, they have the best pulse on that, because you bring them around and they just find it. Kids just find it. Whether whether you allow them to or whatever, they'll find it. They'll find what they need, like right off the bat. Whether it is sleep, like in the moment, they just find the thing they need, they just do it immediately.
You're right.
Whether it is to scream and holler, whether it is they just do it unbridledly, unapologetically. And so I think I bring my nephews. I brought my nephews up for that week in between Christmas and New Year's last year, after the show I did called "Ain't No More" closed early. And it was partly because I was like, oh, I need to find. Right now, I was like, it's winter. The show closed before Christmas, before the New Year. I just need to find it. And I brought them up, and I got to see, because they had never been to New York before, and even seeing the city through their eyes, I was like, oh, I found it. Like because they just, it don't take much for them to find it. They could just be sitting there, and I'm like, what are you doing? In Gremlin? Or it's just like the little things. My nephew got really excited about the blow up bed in the living room. He just put his hand there. I was like, oh, and I know that's really silly, that's really childish, but like sometimes it can be that simple.
No, it's not childish at all. It's not childish.
It can be that simple. And so for me, as I've gotten older, I hate that word. As I've gotten
Wait, which word? Getting older?
Yeah, like I don't even want to say wiser. As I've continued to move on this path, because like I don't know, like I could like I don't know. I think of time differently than most people, but that's a different conversation.
I don't think it is though.
Yeah, I don't think you get older. I think you hopefully go more in line to what like brought you into this, what the source that thrust you into this place, as you get closer to the source that thrust you into this place, and so it's not about like getting older. And that's why I don't like talking about my age to people. Everybody in this theater, everybody wants to know. I'm like, it don't matter. It's not about age, because I probably asked questions that you would never ask in your lifetime. But it's not about getting older. It's just like the way that the journey is. It's like that for me. It's like an oval. But yes, they just having them and bringing them here reminded me that it was available to me, and I am now in the place where those are the people I surround myself around. The people that they don't have to see or talk about the world in the same, but I think they make me feel that there's always a possibility, whether it be for fun, whether it be for happiness, whether it be to make money, whatever it is, there's a possibility. So like there's more. We live in an infinite universe. We are infinite beings. And so it's not about where you are, but there's more. There's more than just this. It's like one thing. We're all more than just one thing. And life is more than just one thing. And I think as I've gotten older, I've been thrust back into like source, which is for me sometimes my fun, my joy, and surrounding myself around the people that sort of are able to tap into that, and it helped me tap into that, unbeknownst, unconsciously. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How does understanding that big truth of we are infinite beings, we are in an infinite universe, there are infinite destinies, how does that like, because as I've learned and thrust myself into that knowing, I am genuinely happier for it, right? Like it gives me so much space to experience life. But then when I'm in my moments of reality, I have reality in air quotes, guys. When I have those moments of like something happened that I don't like, yeah, let's put it in air quotes. When something happens that I don't like, or I'm having a really strong reaction to something, I'm thinking, I've had to learn to think through, hey, you're an infinite being. You're a human having a spirit, you're a spiritual being having a human experience. Like I know this feels and you're feeling through the reality of that, but like it doesn't have to be your reality either for this long or for X, Y, that kind of thing. So my self-talk has grown so much in that space around that knowing of being an infinite being. And so I wonder for you, when you do experience like pain moments or crushing moments, or you didn't get a project or something happened to, either someone in your life, or you're perceiving yourself in a certain way, how does that knowing interact with that?
Well, I mean, so it's so funny because it's different for almost everything. Sometimes I need to be reminded, and sometimes I just know, and sometimes
Yeah.
because I know, I allow myself like first it's like when my grandfather died during the pandemic, I was like, oh, and my mom and my brother would go to he died of cancer, and my brother would go and visit him every day and hold his hand. And my brother would come home, and I had moved back to Philly for the pandemic, during the pandemic, and my brother, when I was back there, was like, yo, you should go see Grandpa Jerome. He really wants to see you. And so I ended up going to see him, and it was like really sad or whatever. And my brother said the same thing to my mom. He's like, he said he wants to see you before he leaves. Because I know it's, because he knew what was happening. We all knew who was coming. Well, I don't think I knew until I knew. His current wife, I was like, so what we doing for Thanksgiving this year? And she was like, oh, baby. And I was like,
Oh,
and she actually
oh,
called my mom after I left to be
and was
like,
like,
you
does he
know,
know? Right,
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I don't know if we're gonna see Thanksgiving. And I was like, huh? Very confused.
Mm.
My brother said to my mom, he really wants to see you before he go. So my brother came home one day, found out, he came home in tears. He had finally left. And I'll never forget, my mom walked in, and it was like me and my brother turned back into like 4 and 5 year olds because we were so mad at her. And in that moment, I was like, I needed to be mad at her. Now, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's in line with I needed to be mad at her because she didn't do it. She didn't go and see him. Now, in hindsight, as I've continued on the journey, I realized it's a very complicated relationship for my mom. My dad died when he was 33. Um, so that was his father. Like, it's a very complicated like thing for my
Sure.
mom to. She sold all of his properties because as he was getting sicker, she was selling his properties because my mom's a real estate agent. So it was. I in hindsight, I realized, oh, it was probably harder for me. I think it was harder for her to go see him like that than it was for like. In hindsight, I realized, but in the moment, I go, shame. I'm like, we like in Game of Thrones, yelling at Cersei
Mm.
Lannister, shame, shame, shame. Me and my brother. And so in that moment, yeah, I needed to feel that. Now, was it right? Was it wrong? I mean, some people might place those judgments, but I needed to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after through time, you sort of renegotiate what things like that mean and meant. Um,
Mm.
I hope that kind of answers your question. In
Yeah,
that,
no, oh, go ahead. Yeah,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
in that like it is it's just different for every sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so for something like that, which has there's a longer history, a relationship to the feeling or the moment or the thing, then it took a little more time. But for a
Yeah.
friendship that I've known or haven't talked to this person in 5 years or seen this person, and they say this thing to me, it takes no time
Right, right, right.
to sort
Yeah,
of like negotiate that.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about your children's book a little bit.
Oh,
And you can feel free to like whip it back. Yeah,
yeah,
there we
go,
go.
go.
I wish, yeah, I want to join us in that. So right now he's showing A Boy and His Mirror, the beautiful children's book he just wrote, that came out in January of this year. And first of all, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
such a huge accomplishment just to be in that writing space and then to write a children's book. But what age of Marchánt did you write the children's book for?
Yeah, it's like K to 3, K to 4. But I would hope that it could resonate with anybody who reads it.
Oh, no, 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 no. Let me rephrase my question. What age for you did you write the children's book for? What
Oh,
reflection did you need to see?
it's funny because it was like high school Marchand. I
Mm,
know.
I love,
It wasn't
elaborate,
even.
please.
It's not even like childhood Marchand. It's like middle school, high school Marchand. Because I used to get made. I decided like I had this huge afro once I got to like was it seventh, eighth grade. And I decided to like just keep growing my hair out. And when I say like, yo, the names, the things I got called, my friends used to call me. Actually, no, they used to. I'm gonna say it because they some of them might listen to this. They used to call me Slave Shot. It's I know,
It's crazy.
yeah. And so it was just, and so I just wanted to write something um, that I wish I could have read like 10 years prior to that moment,
Mm,
or I wish could have been in their sphere 10 years prior to that moment, or anyone's. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Do those friends, I'm assuming they know how those words and insults and jokes made you feel later on, or even in the moment, I'm not sure.
Maybe, maybe not. But you know what? At the end of the day, I probably have one or two insults right back. So it's like, see, imperfect being here, imperfect being. I
Yeah,
understand.
of course. Of course, we all are. We all are.
uh,
And yeah, go ahead.
no, no, so I go. It's it's okay. I
Yeah,
forgive
yeah,
me, and I forgive them.
yeah, yeah. So with a children's book like this, like when you read it, obviously you've read it, publicly and when you were writing it and things like that, like what parts were you pulling from those experiences? Was it not being able to see yourself, not having other people see you? Was it a mixture of both?
Well, it's the combination of a few things because I mean, like I said, my father died when I was pretty young. And so in the book, there are just a bunch of women who sort of guide this young boy through his experience. There's his mother, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and then the woman in the mirror. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it was sort of like subconsciously me trying to write all the black women who like love me into being. I have like 13, 12 aunts and uncles.
Mm.
And so my mom got what, 9 sisters. And so it was me just remembering my experience of all the women that were around me.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. What an honor to them. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, I thank you for sharing that you're about your dad and that he passed away early. Have you and your mom did you guys have a lot of conversations as you were getting older of what that experience or reflection was like post
No,
between either her or you? Not really.
No, my mom don't talk. My, yeah, no, but my mom grew up in North Philly. I just feel like there are a lot of things that my mom has never unpacked with us. There's some things that she has. There's some things that she just doesn't like. We don't really talk about. I still remember having a visceral experience at my grandfather's funeral because me and my brother were they were putting him, rolling him into the ground. And my mom disappears, and I look up on the hill, and she's looking for Troy, my father's um, grave, because she hadn't been there in like 20 some years. And so it was like one of those fascinating. It's like one of those things where I could tell there's like a lot where she just hasn't sort of she hasn't processed.
Hmm.
She just had to raise three boys by herself. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I don't personally, but
But
I
yeah,
understand. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Do you feel like some parts of that protection of emotions, did you learn some of those behaviors, or was that not something that
oh
you kind of,
yeah, yeah. Oh, most definitely, of course.
hmm,
You learn to take care of yourself
hmm. Where
because
have you edited that in
what do
your
you mean
life?
edit it?
Well, I guess the way you're talking, the way I'm experiencing you now, I would assume that you have not changed, but added layers of letting people in. But you can tell me if you actually have or have not.
No, no, I have. I
But
didn't say any buts. There are no buts. Did you hear a butt?
okay.
There might have been a
No,
butt somewhere in the air that you heard.
yeah, no, I guess I was looking for you to elaborate, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm an actor. I don't mean that in the sense that like I'm an actor. I can manipulate my emotions. I mean that as like I'm used to um, being able to use my work to sort of explore things
Mm,
that I probably um, have either bottled up in some sort of way or
yeah.
uh, just haven't fully processed as a person myself. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
It leads me to one of my last questions which actually does have to do with like your work as an actor and how you confront the things. And I don't necessarily think it has to be through you as an actor, but you can answer through that. What's the last fear that you did confront?
At last year, as in just in general, or as
Yeah, in general. And you can, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, he could have confronted it through a role, or he could have confronted it through a character, or he could have been confronted it through Marchant himself.
no, there's like a constant fear as an artist that you always confront, and that is, will I ever work again? Am I worthy? Am I worthy? Am I enough? Am I anything? Like there's always sort of that fear, partly like financial based because we live in New York City, or it's yeah, yeah, it's partly the fear of not knowing what's next. But I think I've sort of in the last year and a half, because of so much life that has happened, sort of liberated myself from that. Like I still fear not knowing what's next, but I guess it isn't something that keeps me up at night as much.
Hmm.
um, because there's an understanding now where it's like, you know, I might not know what's next, but I know that whatever I have to offer is of value. I know that whether it be work or life, whatever rooms I'm in, I want to know that people see the value in me and I see the value in it. And so I guess it's like, I don't even, I can't say that conquered it, because I don't think you ever fully conquer anything. And anybody who says they did, I think that they're very brilliant, because there's always a part of me which is like, there's always some me at some point where that thing will pop back up or rear its head. So I don't think I'm fully confident, but it is something that is easier to live with. I do think I have value. I do think that there is value in me. I don't think I've always thought that about myself, but I do think that now about myself. Do I know that? Sometimes. You know? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't. I'm reminded, but that's why I have people around me who, you know what I mean? So it's an imperfect sort of dance.
Of course. So I almost want to know why every time you say imperfect, you laugh.
Do I?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Gosh.
I'm very like, I enjoy the intuitiveness of the human to human relationship, hence the name of the podcast. But I not enjoy, but I guess I'm just curious of why. I've noticed that throughout our conversation, that every time you say it, you laugh. And I don't know if you've noticed it. So it's just a reflection.
Well, I just think because so much is imperfect, and I think it's actually kind of I think it's perfect that it's imperfect.
Yeah.
And it actually brings me so much joy. You know what I mean?
That's why I was like, you laugh when you say it. And I think it makes me laugh, because I'm like, I enjoy imperfection too, because it finally gave me space to be a real person. I think there was a lot, at least in my life, I definitely struggle with the perfectionism. And so as I've loved and fallen in love with just being human and the human experience and the ups and downs, I'm very sensitive to, like, you know, I guess your interaction with the word imperfect.
Yeah. There's a whole, whenever I think of that word, there's a whole song and dance that goes on inside of me. Like, there are so many things that are, everything is imperfect in my mind.
Yes.
And so but I think so many people strive for perfection that it's laughable. I think I'm laughing at them and at myself. Well, no, mainly at myself when I try to strive for something that I can't. You know what I mean? It makes no sense, but sure.
Yes. Marchánt Davis, everybody. Thank you so much for the conversation and for the reflection and for the openness. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.